My friend, have you ever cried out in the night, wondering if God even hears you? Have you ever prayed with all your heart only to feel like the heavens are silent? Let me tell you something today. God is not silent. God is not distant. And there are prayers that He always answers. Stay with me, because by the end of this message, you will know the 4 prayers that can change your life forever. My friend, have you ever felt like your prayers are hitting a wall, like you're calling out into an empty sky and no one is listening? You kneel, you whisper, you cry, but the silence is deafening. You wonder, does God even hear me? You question if your words have any power, if your voice reaches beyond your ceiling. And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to believe that prayer doesn't work. But listen to me. There are prayers that shake heaven. There are prayers that do not go unanswered. There are prayers that move the heart of God and bring down walls that have stood in your way for years. And if you want to know the secret to prayers that bring breakthrough, if you want to know what prayers heaven responds to, then hear me today, because what I'm about to tell you can change your life forever. I want you to picture a man drowning at sea. He's been fighting the waves for hours, struggling to keep his head above water. He's exhausted, desperate, afraid. He flails, kicks, gasps for air, but the more he fights, the weaker he becomes. And then, just as he feels himself slipping under, he stops struggling. He lifts his hands, cries out with everything in him, and lets go. And in that moment, help arrives. A hand reaches down, pulls him from the water, sets him on solid ground. That's how prayer works. Some of you have been struggling for too long, fighting battles in your own strength, trying to figure out life on your own terms. You've been holding on to things that are breaking you, your fears, your failures, your past. You've been wrestling with burdens that were never meant for you to carry alone. And the reason you feel stuck, the reason you feel like your prayers aren't being answered is because you're still holding on. But there's a prayer that never goes unheard, a prayer that breaks chains, a prayer that brings heaven rushing to your aid. And that is the prayer of surrender. Because the moment you stop trying to control everything, the moment you lift your hands and say, I can't do this on my own anymore, that's when God moves. That's when He steps in. That's when doors start to open and mountains start to move. Some of you have been asking, why is nothing changing in my life? Why do I keep running into the same walls, the same struggles, the same disappointments? And I'm here to tell you, it's because you're still trying to do it in your own power. You're still gripping the wheel, still trying to steer your own destiny, still wrestling with what was never yours to fight alone. But if you would just let go, if you would just open your hands and surrender that pain, that fear, that uncertainty, you would see what God can do with a life that is fully placed in His hands. I have seen people carry burdens for years, shame from the past, bitterness from broken relationships, fear of the future. They hold on to these things like a chain around their soul, thinking that if they just try harder, if they just push through, somehow they'll fix it. But my friend, you were never meant to fix it alone. You were never meant to carry it alone. Some of you have been praying for change, but you're still holding on to the very thing that's keeping you bound. You want healing, but you won't let go of the pain. You want freedom, but you're still clinging to the past. You want peace, but you're still trying to control every outcome. Let me ask you, what is it that you're holding on to today? What is it that you're afraid to release? Because until you surrender it, your hands will be too full to receive the answer you're looking for. But the moment you let go, the moment you lift your hands and say, God, I give this to you, you will see what real peace feels like. You will see what real freedom looks like. And you will know without a doubt that heaven was waiting for you to take that step. I know there are people listening to me right now who are tired. Tired of carrying it all. Tired of pretending they're okay. Tired of fighting battles they feel like they're losing. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to carry it anymore. You don't have to fight alone. Because the greatest breakthroughs come not when we struggle, not when we strive, but when we surrender. when we finally let go and say, God, take this. I trust you. And when you pray that prayer, when you truly mean it, your life will never be the same again. My friend, there is a weight that many carry, a weight that crushes the soul, that robs joy, that keeps people awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying moments they wish they could forget. It's a weight heavier than any burden, stronger than any chain. It's the weight of unforgiveness. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Someone hurt you. Someone betrayed your trust. Someone walked away when you needed them most. And the wound they left wasn't just on the surface. It went deep. Maybe it was years ago. Maybe it was yesterday. But even now, the pain lingers. It still has power over you. You think about it when you least expect it. You rehearse the words they said, the way they made you feel. Maybe you smile on the outside, but inside there's a war, a battle between the life you want and the bitterness that won't let go. And it doesn't just stay hidden in your heart. It bleeds into everything. It affects your relationships, your peace, your happiness. It builds walls that keep people out, even the ones who love you. But there's something I need you to understand today. There is a prayer that can set you free. There is a prayer that heaven always hears. And that is the prayer of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about pretending the pain never happened. It's not about excusing what someone did. No, forgiveness is about breaking free, because as long as you hold on to that bitterness, that anger, that resentment, you are the one in chains. You think you're keeping them locked out, but the truth is, you are the one locked in. There are people listening to me right now who have been carrying the same pain for years. They have let it define them. They have let it shape the way they see the world, the way they trust, the way they love. And the tragedy is that the person who hurt them has moved on, but they are still trapped in the moment of their pain. Let me tell you something. You don't have to live that way. You don't have to let what happened to you keep you from the life you were meant to live. You don't have to let the past hold you hostage. But the only way to be free is to let it go. I know some of you are thinking, but you don't know what they did. You don't know how deep the wound is, and you're right, I don't. But I do know this. Holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. It doesn't destroy them. It destroys you. You see, forgiveness is not a feeling. If you wait until you feel like forgiving, you may never do it. Forgiveness is a choice, a decision to release the hurt, to say, I will not let this define me anymore. It doesn't mean you have to trust that person again. It doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life. But it does mean you refuse to let them control your heart any longer. Some of you have been waiting for an apology that will never come. You've been waiting for the person who hurt you to admit they were wrong, to feel remorse, to make it right. But what if they never do? Will you stay bound by their actions for the rest of your life? Will you let their mistakes hold you captive? Or will you decide right now that you will no longer be controlled by the pain they caused? The truth is, when you forgive, you're not setting them free, you're setting yourself free. You are opening the door to healing. You are making room for peace. And let me tell you, the moment you truly release that burden, you will feel lighter. The moment you say, I choose to forgive, heaven moves. The weight lifts, the chains break, and suddenly the joy that's been buried under years of pain begins to rise again. There are people listening right now who have been praying for peace. You've been asking for breakthrough. But peace cannot dwell where bitterness lives. You cannot hold on to both pain and freedom. You have to choose. And I know it's not easy. Some wounds cut so deep that you don't even know where to start. But start anyway. Say the words. Even if your heart doesn't feel it yet, even if your mind resists, say it, I choose to forgive. And keep saying it until your soul begins to believe it. Because forgiveness is not just a one-time decision. It's a daily choice. Every day you wake up and say, I will not let this control me anymore. I will not let the past steal my future. And when you do that, my friend, you will walk in a freedom you never thought possible. You will look back on the pain not as something that broke you, but as something that made you stronger. You will rise above what was meant to destroy you, and you will walk into a future free from the chains of yesterday. Because the moment you choose to forgive, heaven hears you. And that is a prayer that will never go unanswered. My friend, I want you to think for a moment about the power of your words. Not just the words you speak to others, but the words you speak in the quiet of your heart. When you wake up in the morning, what do you say? Do you say, today is going to be a struggle? Or do you say, today is a gift? When things don't go your way, do you say, nothing ever works out for me? Or do you say, there is something good even in this? Because let me tell you something, your words have power. Your attitude shapes your reality. And there is one prayer that changes everything, one prayer that heaven always hears, one prayer that can shift the course of your life. It is the prayer of gratitude. Gratitude is not just saying thank you when things are good. It's not just a polite response when someone gives you something. No, gratitude is a force. It is a mindset. It is a way of seeing the world that transforms your heart, your mind, your future. Some people go through life constantly looking for what's wrong. They wake up complaining, they go through the day frustrated, and they lay their head on the pillow at night thinking about everything that didn't go their way. And they wonder why they feel so empty, so bitter, so lost. But let me tell you something. Gratitude is the key that unlocks joy. It is the door that leads to peace, and it is a choice you can make right now. I have seen people who have every reason to complain, people who have lost everything, people who have faced betrayal, people who have walked through the darkest valleys of life, and yet their hearts overflow with gratitude. They don't ignore the pain. They don't pretend the struggles aren't real. But they choose to focus on what is still good, on what they still have, on the simple blessings that so many take for granted. And because of that, they have a strength that nothing in this world can take away. And then I have seen people who seem to have everything, the wealth, the status, the recognition, and yet they are miserable. They are restless. They are never satisfied. Because gratitude is not about what you have, it's about how you see what you have. Two people can walk through the same storm. One comes out bitter, the other comes out stronger. The difference is gratitude. Some of you have been searching for joy, searching for peace, searching for something to lift the heaviness in your heart. And I'm here to tell you it starts with gratitude. Because when you begin to thank God, even in the struggle, even when life is uncertain, even when things don't go the way you planned, something shifts inside of you. Suddenly, you realize that even in the middle of your battle, there is still something to be thankful for. You realize that life is not just about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to it. I know there are people listening to me right now who are facing challenges that feel impossible. Maybe you're struggling financially. Maybe your health has taken a turn. Maybe you've lost someone you love and you don't know how to move forward. And the last thing you feel like doing is giving thanks. But let me tell you, gratitude is not about denying your pain. It's about shifting your focus. Because even in your darkest hour, there is still breath in your lungs. There are still people who love you. There is still hope for tomorrow. And when you begin to thank God for what you still have, rather than focusing on what you've lost, you will feel a strength rise up inside of you that you didn't even know was there. I want you to imagine two people climbing the same mountain. One spends the entire climb complaining about the rocks in the path, about how far they still have to go, about how hard the journey is. The other person on the exact same trail looks around and says, look at this view, feel this air. I may not be at the top yet, but I'm further than I was yesterday. Which one do you think will have the strength to keep going? That's the power of gratitude. It lifts you, it strengthens you, it changes your perspective. And when you begin to live a life of gratitude, You stop waiting for happiness to come to you, and you start creating it right where you are. Some of you have been waiting for circumstances to change before you feel thankful. But that's not how it works. Gratitude is what changes your circumstances. Because when you start to see life through the lens of gratitude, opportunities appear where you once saw obstacles. Hope rises where you once felt despair. And joy begins to flow from within you, no longer dependent on what happens around you. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can focus on everything that's wrong, or you can choose to give thanks for everything that's still right. You can dwell on your disappointments, or you can celebrate the small victories. You can let life make you bitter, or you can let gratitude make you better. And when you choose gratitude, when you make it your prayer, your mindset, your way of life, you will see doors open that you never thought possible. You will feel peace that no storm can shake, and you will walk with a joy that this world cannot take away. My friend, I want to ask you a question today. Have you ever felt lost? Have you ever stood at a crossroads, unsure of which way to go, uncertain of what the future holds? Have you ever laid awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you're making the right decisions, if you're on the right path, if your life is headed in the direction it's supposed to go? There are moments in life when we all feel this way. Moments when the road ahead seems unclear, when fear creeps in, when doubt whispers in our ear, telling us we'll never make it, that we'll never figure it out, that we're not good enough, not strong enough, not smart enough to get where we're supposed to be. And in those moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to feel stuck. It's easy to think, maybe I should just give up. But I want to tell you something today. There is a prayer that never goes unanswered. A prayer that cuts through the confusion, that brings clarity in the midst of chaos, that opens doors you never thought possible. It is the prayer for guidance. Because no matter how lost you feel, no matter how uncertain the road ahead may seem, you are not walking alone. There is a path for you. There is a purpose for you. And when you call out for wisdom, when you ask for direction, when you stop trying to figure everything out on your own and say, lead me, show me the way, something incredible happens. The fog begins to lift. The next step becomes clear, and suddenly you realize that you were never truly lost. You were simply waiting for the right moment to see the way forward. Some of you are standing at the edge of a decision right now. Maybe it's a career change. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a dream you've been too afraid to pursue, and you don't know what to do. You've weighed the options. You've thought about the risks. You've asked everyone around you for advice, but still you feel stuck. Still you feel unsure, and you're afraid of making the wrong move, afraid of choosing the wrong path, afraid that one decision could change everything. Let me tell you something. Life is not about having all the answers. Life is about learning to trust the journey. It's about taking a step forward even when you can't see the whole road. It's about believing that when you ask for guidance, when you open your heart to wisdom, the right doors will open, the right opportunities will come, and the path that is meant for you will be revealed. I have seen people spend their entire lives waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for absolute certainty, waiting until they feel 100% ready before they take a step. But let me ask you something. How many dreams have died because someone was too afraid to move? How many opportunities have been lost because someone waited too long? How many people have settled for less than they were meant for because they let fear keep them from walking forward? You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You don't have to have every detail figured out to move in the right direction. You simply have to ask for guidance and then take the step that is in front of you. And when you do, the next step will come. And then the next, and before you know it, you'll look back and realize that what once felt impossible, what once seemed like an uncertain future, has become a life greater than anything you ever imagined. Some of you are hesitating right now because you're afraid of failure. You think, what if I take the wrong path? What if I make a mistake? What if things don't go the way I plan? But let me tell you something. There is no such thing as failure when you are willing to learn. Every misstep, every wrong turn, every moment of uncertainty is just part of the process. It's shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for what's ahead. The greatest leaders, the greatest thinkers, the greatest innovators in history, none of them had a perfect roadmap for success. They didn't have all the answers when they started, but they did one thing. They moved forward. They asked for wisdom. They took the next step, and they trusted that the path would unfold before them. And that's what I want for you today. I want you to stop letting fear hold you back. I want you to stop overanalyzing every decision to the point that you never make one. I want you to stop waiting for everything to be perfect before you take the step that is right in front of you. Because the truth is, you already know what to do. Deep down, you already feel the pull. You already sense the direction. You've just been waiting for the courage to act. And if you're still unsure, if you're still hesitant, then take a moment right now and ask for wisdom. Ask for clarity. Ask for the strength to move forward. Because that is a prayer that heaven always answers. That is a prayer that brings light into the darkest confusion. That is a prayer that will lead you to places you never dreamed possible. No matter how uncertain you feel right now, no matter how lost you think you are, the way forward is there. The answers will come, the doors will open, and step by step, you will walk into the life you were meant to live. My friend, there is something deep inside each of us, something that calls out, something that longs for more. It's that voice that whispers in the quiet moments of your life, telling you that you were meant for something greater, that you were created with purpose, that your life has meaning beyond the struggles, beyond the routine, beyond the daily grind that so often wears people down. But here's what I want you to understand today. There is one prayer that will always be answered, a prayer that heaven never ignores, and that is the prayer for strength. Because life will test you, life will push you, life will bring moments where you feel like you can't go on, moments when the weight of your burdens feels too heavy, moments when you feel like you don't have the energy to take another step. And in those moments, the difference between those who rise and those who fall, the difference between those who overcome and those who are overcome is the strength they have within them. Some of you listening right now are tired. You're exhausted, not just physically, but deep in your soul. You're tired of fighting battles that never seem to end. You're tired of carrying burdens that no one else can see. You're tired of pretending to be strong when inside you feel like you're falling apart. And you've reached the point where you don't know if you can keep going. But I want to tell you something. Strength is not about never feeling weak. Strength is not about never having moments of doubt. Strength is about what you do in those moments. It's about where you turn when you feel empty, where you go when you feel like you can't go on. Because the truth is, you don't have to carry it all on your own. You don't have to fight every battle in your own power. You don't have to rely on your own limited strength when there is a greater strength available to you. I have seen people walk through the darkest seasons of life, the loss of a loved one, the pain of betrayal, the devastation of broken dreams, and yet, somehow, they kept going. Somehow, they found the strength to stand when everything around them was falling apart. Somehow, they kept pressing forward when everything in them wanted to give up. And do you know why? Because they knew where to turn for strength. The strongest people are not the ones who never struggle. They are the ones who know where to go when the struggle comes. They are the ones who understand that real strength is not found in physical power, in status, in wealth, in the things this world chases after. Real strength is found in resilience. It is found in perseverance. It is found in the unshakable belief that no matter how hard life gets, no matter how many times you get knocked down, you have the power to rise again. I know some of you are facing battles that no one else knows about. You smile on the outside, but inside, you're breaking. You encourage others, but when you're alone, you feel empty. You carry responsibilities, but you don't know how much longer you can carry them. And you've started to wonder if it's all worth it. But let me tell you something. You are stronger than you think. You have more fight left in you than you realize. And the battle you're facing right now is not the end of your story. Because when you pray for strength, when you call out for the power to endure, when you reach beyond yourself for the courage to keep going, something happens inside of you. The weight that once felt unbearable starts to feel a little lighter. The mountain that once seemed impossible to climb no longer looks so tall. And before you know it, you find yourself taking one more step, and then another, until one day you look back and realize that what once seemed impossible is now behind you. The world is full of people who gave up too soon, people who let life break them, people who walked away from their dreams because the road got too hard. But that is not who you are. You were not created to quit. You were not made to give up. You have a strength inside of you that is greater than anything life can throw at you. And when you tap into that strength, when you refuse to let the hardships of life defeat you, when you pray not for an easier path, but for the strength to walk the one you're on, you become unstoppable. There will be days when you don't feel strong. There will be moments when the struggle seems too great. But hear me when I say this. Strength is not a feeling, it is a decision to keep going, a decision to stand when everything in you wants to fall, a decision to believe that there is more ahead of you than what's behind you. So whatever you're facing today, whatever battle you're fighting, whatever weight you're carrying, don't give up. Don't let the struggle convince you that you are weak, because you are not weak. You are strong. You are capable. You have been given everything you need to overcome. And when you pray for strength, you will find that it was inside of you all along. My friend, there is something inside every one of us that longs to be free. Free from fear, free from doubt, free from the burdens that weigh us down. And yet so many people walk through life feeling trapped by their past, trapped by their mistakes, trapped by the pain they've carried for years. They wake up every morning with the same worries, the same regrets, the same voices in their head telling them that they will never be anything more than what they are right now. But I want to tell you today, there is one prayer that heaven always answers, one request that never goes unheard. It is the prayer for forgiveness. There is no burden heavier than the burden of guilt. No prison stronger than the one built by our own mistake. There are people walking around every day with invisible chains wrapped around them. Chains of shame, chains of regret, chains of bitterness for the things they wish they could change but can't. And the longer they carry those chains, the more they begin to believe that this is just the way life is, that they will never be free, that they will always be defined by the worst things they've done or the worst things that have been done to them. But I want you to know something today. You don't have to live that way. You don't have to carry that weight. You don't have to walk around feeling like your past is a life sentence, like your failures have determined your future, like you are beyond redemption. Because when you cry out for forgiveness, when you make the decision to release the guilt, when you finally let go of the things that have been holding you back, something powerful happens. You are set free. Some people spend their whole lives running from their past, running from their pain, running from the truth of who they are and what they've done. But you can't outrun your past. You can't bury your mistakes so deep that they no longer exist. The only way to truly be free is to face them, to lay them down, to say, I will no longer let this define me. Maybe you're listening to this right now, and there's something deep inside of you that you've never fully let go of. Maybe it was a decision you made that you wish you could take back. Maybe it was a moment of weakness that changed everything. Maybe it was a failure that still haunts you. a word you spoke that you can't unsay, a choice that hurt someone you love. And every time you think about it, the shame rushes back, the regret rises up, and you feel like you will never fully escape it. But let me tell you something. Your mistakes are not who you are. Your failures are not the end of your story. And no matter how big your regrets may be, no matter how much pain you have carried, no matter how many times you have fallen short, there is always a way forward. Because forgiveness is not about ignoring what happened. It's about refusing to let it have power over you anymore. There are two kinds of people in this world. There are those who allow their past to define them, to shape their identity, to limit what they believe is possible for their future. And then there are those who choose to rise above it, those who take responsibility, who acknowledge their failures, who face the truth, and then say, I refuse to be a prisoner to this any longer. And I want that for you today. I want you to stop carrying the weight of things that can't be changed. I want you to stop replaying old mistakes like a movie on repeat in your mind. I want you to stop believing the lie that because you fell, you can never rise again. Because I have seen people who have done terrible things, things they thought they could never be forgiven for, find peace. I have seen people who lived for years under the shadow of regret finally step into the light. I have seen lives transformed not because people pretended their pasts didn't exist, but because they decided to stop letting it control them. And maybe for you, the hardest person to forgive is yourself. Maybe you can extend grace to everyone else, but when it comes to your own life, you feel like you don't deserve it. You tell yourself, if people knew what I've done, if they knew my mistakes, they would never look at me the same. But let me tell you something, everyone has fallen short. Everyone has moments they wish they could take back. There is not a single person walking this earth who has not made mistakes. But the ones who find peace, the ones who move forward, the ones who step into a future free from the weight of the past, are the ones who choose forgiveness. So what are you holding on to today? What is the thing that keeps you up at night? The thing that whispers to you when everything else is quiet? What is the burden that has been resting on your shoulders for far too long? Because you don't have to carry it anymore. You don't have to be bound by it for another day. The moment you choose forgiveness is the moment you step into freedom. And once you do, you will never be the same again. My friend, I want you to take a moment and think about everything we've talked about. Think about the burdens you've carried, the questions you've asked, the fears that have held you back. Think about the moments when you felt lost, the times when you needed strength, the seasons when you didn't know which way to turn. But now you know something powerful. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not without hope, because there are prayers that heaven always answers. Prayers for guidance when you don't know the way. Prayers for strength when you feel weak. Prayers for peace when the storms of life rage around you. Prayers for forgiveness when the weight of the past feels too heavy to bear. And when you pray these prayers, when you open your heart, when you let go of fear, when you stop carrying what was never meant to be yours, you step into a life of freedom, a life of purpose, a life where you are no longer held back by your past, no longer defined by your failures, no longer bound by the lies that have kept you small. There is a future waiting for you, a future greater than anything you have imagined, a future where your struggles are not your identity, where your past does not define your destiny, where the things that once held you down no longer have power over you. But you must make a choice. Will you keep walking in fear, or will you step forward in faith? Will you stay bound by doubt, or will you believe that there is more ahead? Will you let the weight of life press you down, or will you rise? My friend, I want to tell you today, you were made to rise. You were made to overcome. You were made for something greater than what you see right now. And if you have the courage to ask, the courage to trust, the courage to take one step forward, the answers will come. And when it does, you will look back and realize that everything you went through was leading you to this moment. So don't give up. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let the struggles of today keep you from the victory of tomorrow, because there are prayers that never go unanswered. And when you pray them, when you truly believe, you will step into the life you were always meant to live.